because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
Hey everyone, well, Merry Christmas to you all from us at the Goat Track. Hope you're all having a knockout holiday. This is episode 16, a little bit delayed. We had some technical issues when we first tried to record this, but myself and Jacques spoke about the kind of year that was for South African professional golf. Spoiler alert, wasn't a great year. But there were a couple of standout performances and some reasons to believe going into 2024. And then on the second half, we had a great chat around reimagining the SA Open and seeing which courses we would take it to if we had to build out a rota for the SA Open. And that was a good chat. We also got some input from some of our golf groups and that, and really enjoyed it. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Skinner, my brother-in-law. Thanks for allowing me to record this podcast at your residence. Also could explain why the audio quality is not that great. I was kind of basically using my headphones, and I'm a little bit sick at the moment. But anyway, we got it done. So thanks, Skinner. I know you're our number one fan, and you're spreading the Goat Track to all corners of the world. So thanks a lot for that. And now over to the podcast. At my brother-in-law's place, we've been spending Christmas here. So hence the interesting setup. I just had to leave everyone by the fireplace. Just excuse myself to the bedroom.
Well, I did see you smashing some golf balls into the dam there, which looked pretty epic.
Yeah.
And then the champagne cork tracer was the highlight.
Yeah. No, I thought that'd be a good value add. That's like our little annual tradition. Well, I say annual, but we normally have Christmas here every 2 years. So we hit balls from their patio with an old 3-wood, and we try and see who can hit it the furthest into the dam.
So who won?
I got to say, this year we were struggling a little bit.
Is that before or after the Christmas drinks?
Those videos you saw were the 4th and 5th attempts, probably. There were a couple of dodgy shanks. But we meet under different circumstances to what we were hoping. We had an amazing setup about a week ago at what we're going to call the 60 degree, and we had microphones set up. We had a cooler box with beers, and unfortunately the technology just let us down. We could still drink the beers though, which was very useful. But having to record this podcast a little bit behind schedule, but nice of you to join us on Boxing Day, JDV.
Shot Terence, and maybe just to add that it was also a good opportunity to get a 3-hole challenge in, which was also lekker.
Yeah, exactly. We had a nice little 3-hole challenge at Cotswold. So pop a video of that up soon. Once the video editors are back from their Christmas break.
I thought that's when the most editing happens.
Yeah, you're right. It should be, but didn't quite work out like that. I actually managed to find myself on the golf course today. Believe it or not.
Which golf course?
In this weather. So I went and played at my new home course, Jacques.
Yes. I thought you might have to show a bit more face, considering you're now a newly minted member there.
Yeah. So
without big revealing.
Big announcement for the podcast, but I have joined Gowrie Farm. No, there were no sponsorships offered from Gowrie for the podcast we did with them, but I'm sure there'll be maybe a couple of beers on the house at some stage. But I did laugh because during that podcast, I remember Guy Smith saying that he wanted to create the quintessential Scottish experience at Gowrie. Well, let me tell you today, today was the most authentic Scottish experience you could have playing golf there because it was just pissing down with rain the whole way around. I think it didn't rain for maybe 1.5 holes. It rained very hard for like 4 holes, and the rest of the time it was just raining, like normal rain. So it was quite an experience today, but yeah, we had fun.
And did you take a
Couple
peek
of
at
Guinnesses
the
afterwards.
did you take a peek at the other holes while you were playing around that area?
Yeah, the everything's grown in really nicely. The greens are looking good. Um, I would say hopefully they're still on track for the 1st of March as an opening date. Um, but yeah, everything's just looking a lot greener than the last time I was there. And I also saw the new little halfway house that they're building, which is
Ah,
quite exciting. Saw that coming out the ground. So
is it
that's
homage to
once.
Durban Country Club's your favorite Durban Country Club halfway house architecture design?
No, it's I think they actually used an actual architect for this one. So
But you know those container
it's
homes
looking
need
good. It's
architects as well.
it's very subtle. But yeah, I saw the slot where they're going to bring the curry gravy in the back there and everything. So it's gonna. I think we might even be able to get half up there if we let them know that they need to up their curry, or if they need to have a great curry gravy on their menu, we could probably get half in there. So
Yeah, I think that's the only way to get off to the golf course nowadays is just to entice them with curry
well,
gravies.
well, let me tell you, I wouldn't have got him there today in this weather. So
Well, I meant to
yeah,
be playing with them tomorrow morning, but the weather is looking pretty atrocious. So I'll report back. One, whether we were able to play because I think they might close the course. It's been that wet, and two, if it is open, whether he arrives. Um, but maybe on that point, I did want to say for anyone listening to this podcast, thinking about planning a golf tour to KZN in December, please don't. It is seriously atrocious weather. Um, November, December, January, everyone has this idea that Durban and the Midlands and the coastal places are just super hot and like sunny and these long days. And to be honest, most of the time it is Scotland for those 3 months, with maybe 1 or 2 days interspersed where you do get the long hot summer days. But for the most part, geez, the weather can be guck during this time of year.
no, you don't do yourselves any favor with the golf to KZN at the summer here. So yeah, good advice, very sound advice. I'll give you some advice, and that is I don't think I would have gone to the golf course today if Jeremy Cahill hadn't phoned me at about
Uh,
7 o'clock last night. And he said, "Listen, T, the weather's looking bad, but he said let's just meet for a coffee at 7:30 anyway. Um, and we'll just plan it at the course." And that was a very sneaky way to
yeah,
make sure that we made the decision at the golf course and not from your bed,
it's
because
definitely
once you're
not
at the
not
course,
yeah, it's not his first
once you're at the course,
rodeo.
it's a lot it's a
That,
lot easier. Yeah,
and I know
yeah,
that
it's a lot easier to go and play. So
I've certainly used that tactic many a time, is to say, oh, it's raining here, but it might not be raining at the golf course. So let's all go to the golf course, see if it's raining there, and if it is, we'll decide whether or not to play. And then you go there, you have a cup of coffee, and the rain sort of subsides for 2 or 3 minutes, and you say, okay, it looks like it's finished. So you put your wet weather gear on, you go out, and then you just get absolutely drenched. So I'm guilty of using that tactic before. So yeah, it's good to know that that's being employed at your new home course, and I'm glad you got to play it in the conditions it was built for.
yeah. Well, maybe after this podcast, just give Hoff a call and just say, look, let's meet for a coffee, and make the decision at the course, not while you're lying in bed,
I've
So,
already done that, Terence. I'm one step ahead of you.
God, I tell you, yeah, you've done this before. It's not your first rodeo. So listen, we wanted to do a bit of a roundup of the year of South African golf, and we really wanted Hoff to join this podcast. And he was ready in the attic the other day. and he had some hot takes, but unfortunately the mics weren't so hot. The mics were very cold, so we couldn't record that podcast. But really, the points of this podcast was we wanted to do a bit of a roundup of the South African Pro Golf year, and we kind of realized that it hasn't been a great year for South African professional golf outside of maybe one or two shining performances, and we didn't think we could fill up 40 minutes talking about our pro golfers. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some pro golf on the South African front, but we are then going to talk about. We posed a question to ourselves the other day when we were watching the South African Open, and we said basically it's quite sad that we've got into this. We're stuck in this system where it seems to be that they go to one course and they sign a contract for 3 or 4 years. And we started talking about whether if we set up a rota of courses in South Africa like they do for the British Open, which courses would we have in our rotas? So we gave ourselves a little bit of homework. So that we're going to get to in the second half. Um, but maybe I'll start by asking you. We don't need to do a blow by blow of South African pro golf performances this year, but what was your standout performance from a South African professional golfer this year?
Yo, so Terence, I mean, when we got the
Oh, and sorry, it can include an amateur as well because we may find that the best performance this year was actually from an amateur.
the best performance in professional golf was from an amateur. Um, so this also maybe just a disclaimer that this topic was given to us before Louis won two on the trot, um, albeit the one in Mauritius was not against the toughest competition. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say my standout performer for this year from a professional standpoint would have been Dean Burmester. Zimbo, he made some big moves joining Live. I think he was flying high in the European tour. Sort of, I think it just got onto the PGA and probably rode that wave into a nice paycheck for Live. But yeah, made a good run of it at Live with one less event I think than the rest of the guys, and still came 14th. He had two top fives on the Live Tour this year. Won the SA Open, which I think is a big one. Coming back from Live, I think all the SA guys have kept their Sunshine Tour membership and are able to play the the South African co-sanctioned events. So I think they use their Sunshine Tour membership to get into the sort of the Dunhill and Mauritius and SA Open and the rest of it. So yeah, we was a couple of our stingers that were there playing that tournament. Dean Burmester winning the SA Open, won the Joburg Open as well in November. I think the year before, so I think that was still part of this season. So yeah, I think earned a nice nest egg, Burmester this season, and I would say he was my top performer of the year. And then obviously honorary shout out to the Stinger compatriots of Dean, and that was Louis who then won two on the trot towards the end of the year.
Was Dean Burmester the top South African in the Live at the end of the year?
Terence, I'm gonna say yes, and then check my maths on that.
I think he was. Yeah, and funny enough, even though they don't earn world ranking points for Live, he is actually currently the top ranked South African golfer in the world ranking, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Even the fact that he doesn't earn world ranking points, he's still the top
Yeah,
ranked South African.
he is ranked 72nd, and it's quite a sad state of affairs, but that is currently our highest ranked South African professional golfer.
Wow. I mean,
So you could
doesn't that
argue that
say
if,
everything that we wanted to about South African golf this year?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean it's been a very diabolical year. You could argue that really shows that he may have been the standout performer, even though he hasn't earned the points. Possibly if he was playing on the PGA Tour or which he was qualified for, that he would probably still be in the top 50 in the world, I would say. So yeah, I'm I'm very happy to kind of co-sign that one. Honestly, when I look at the world ranking, it's quite diabolical what's happened with, and obviously there's the live components, where guys have not earned points, but when you go look at the general trends of some of our guys, and a lot of these guys who haven't gone to live, it's just been a year of guys just sliding down the world ranking. Um, I mean, Tristan Lawrence, Bezuidenhout, okay, Louis obviously gone down, but Garrick Higo has gone down world rankings. MJ Dafui, who's on the PGA Tour. So it's been pretty bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy to co-sign that. The only other guy I'd give a shout out is probably Eric van Rooyen.
Yeah.
He did win on the PGA Tour this year, recently actually, and he was actually injured last year, I think. So he's been coming off a bit of an injury, and he was one of the few pro golfers to kind of move in the other direction on world rankings. So I like Eric van Rooyen, so I'm going to co-sign that.
So maybe just to fact check us here, Brandon Grace was the top live player from last season, South African live player. He had 3 top 3s, but yeah, and he came sixth in the I think it's what's it Bedminster event. So yeah, Brandon Grace number 9, so he was top 10 um, out of the 50 players that played.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. Oh, he has Brandon Grace in the world ranking. Yo.
Has he
Yeah,
fallen
he's
down?
currently 632nd in the world ranking. I
Oof.
mean, that's such a joke.
Yeah, not good.
Um, yeah, so Jacques, I've picked as my sort of South African player of the year is Ashley Buha. On playing on the LPGA tour. So she's had an unbelievable 2 years, really, and I think what's most impressive about her year is that she had an unbelievable year last year where she won the Open Championship, the ladies Open Championship, obviously, and and then she went on and won the Australian Open at the end of last year, and then a couple of months later she came back to South Africa and she won the South African Open. So in a span of 4 months, I think she won. Well, no, probably not 4 months, maybe 6 months. She won three pretty big tournaments. And I think what's most impressive is that she's kind of followed it up this year with a very solid year on the LPGA Tour, where she had a whole bunch of top tens, and then she also won once on the LPGA Tour. And she then went to Australia again and won the Australian Open again this year.
Yeah.
And it was a reasonably strong field. I mean, Minjee Lee was in that field. There were a couple of other top Australian players. So she's an older, like, relative to the other ladies on
I was
on tour who
I
are all
was
like
gonna ma- I
18 and 19.
was trying to make that point, Terence, and I'm glad you did because I didn't know how I was I was gonna comment and say, someone who's younger than me is pretty old in the game. But yeah, I think it's definitely more pronounced on the ladies side of golf. With the ladies coming out at 16 to sort of 23, where they're playing their best. She's 35 and seems to be playing the best golf of her career at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like with that British Open win, she's worked out how to. Because I know she's come close a lot in the past, but it feels like she's worked out how to actually just close out a golf tournament. So super super cool. So yeah, that's my pick. And then I think we had Carl all lined up. Carl's our resident sort of amateur specialist.
Yeah.
He thrives on talking about amateurs. It's really his bread and butter. He's made a whole career out of it.
Can I think the one thing he knows better than amateur golf, I've never met anyone who knows any professional golfer and who their sponsors are, what irons they play, what apparel they wear. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but he's like Rain Man when it comes to that stuff, Terence.
No, it's a little bit concerning actually how much he remembers in that space.
It's like I don't know.
And it's got easy. It's also got easier for him now because all the live guys mostly like don't have sponsors.
Yeah.
So
Well,
he's got to remember a whole lot of less
he
guys.
just says they're sponsored by Saudi Arabia, and then you're good to go. But I mean, the other, sorry,
Yeah.
just while we're there, I have to throw it out there. Jerome, who was on the rugby podcast, if you want to, his sort of Rain Man talent is that he knows every single capital of every country in the world.
I'm going to test him on that. I'm going to send him a WhatsApp just now and just test him on that.
It's mind blowing.
So listen, I think the performance of the year, and we had sort of thrown the ball to Carl on this one, but I don't think there's any doubt that the golf performance of the year was Christo Lamprecht winning the British Am, which is yeah, it's quite a remarkable achievement. And I think what's crazy about it is that in the last 6 years of the British Am, we've had three winners. Uh, and I actually went and looked up, Jacques, how many South African winners in total do you think there have been of the British Am? In its about 160-year history.
I
If you had
would
to guess.
I would have it hazard a guess at 10.
So there've only been four winners from South Africa.
Sure. And they've all been
The first winner was Bobby Cole in 1966, and then in the last 6 years, we've had three winners, which was Jovan Rebula, Aldrich, of course, your guy Aldrich Potgieter, who some say is around about 6 feet tall, and he's from Mossel Bay, and the big guy Christo. So yeah, that was definitely the performance of the year. I must say, this was the best. I watched a lot of this victory. It was really good coverage on TV, and it was match play, right? So it's great to watch. So yeah, well done, Christo. Let's hope he's going to be at the Masters next year, which is great for him. He gets into all the majors. And he was the co-leader of the Open
Yes,
after the first round. Do
I
you
was
remember
waiting.
that?
I was waiting for you to say that. I was going to come in at the end and say you forgot when he was absolutely taking names at the Open.
Yeah. No, it was wild. He did miss the cuts. He did go on to miss the cuts, which is a bit of a tough seat.
But can I maybe say this is he does seem to be a very links sort of specialist, Christo Lamprecht, which is a bit odd because he hits the ball a mile and the rest of it. So you'd think that he would dominate those more sort of parklandy, resort sort of courses where he can just, use his length. But it does seem, if we look at where they played the amateur champs, where they played the obviously the British Open, I mean, he seems to be at home on a links course.
I think that's a bit of the fact that those are the only times you've seen him on TV.
Fair enough.
Because I mean, his other achievements this year is that he became the number one amateur in the world. Um, and I mean, a lot of the college golf, he's had very good success at college golf in the States. And most of those courses are just your bang average
Yes.
American kind of driver wedge course. So it seems like his game is should be well suited towards kind of pro golf
Yes.
with the distance thing. But I don't know, interesting oak to watch. A lot of guys get to this number one am and then they end up just not converting it. So just watch the space. We'll see what happens.
Do you
But
think
he's a fun guy to watch.
do you think out of the new crop? I mean, when he turns pro, I'm sure he will. Do you think he's going to be the sort of the next crop of South African golfer? I mean, my sort of one of my disappointments, I'm sure we were going to get to it this year, has been Garrick Higo. Garrick Higo came out like a man on fire, and we just haven't heard from him. He's sort of fallen off the map a bit. Um,
Yeah.
so the other guys, obviously a Jaden Shaper, he always seems to be there and thereabouts, knocking around. And again, I'm Hoff is probably the man to discuss this sort of stuff. But would you say Lamprecht is a sort of the next generation that's gonna get through for South African golfers?
I don't know, Jacques. It's so difficult to predict. As I say, like converting a good amateur to career to professional golf, I
Yeah.
think is quite tricky. A lot of these guys at these universities, they're basically spoon fed there. So they have amazing setups, they have coaches, they have these epic practice facilities, and then you get onto the pro tour and you're basically like on your own. and a lot of oaks they just can't translate it very
It,
well.
it,
So
so
I
maybe
think
that's
it's
a
almost impossible to say.
maybe that's a topic for another day. But I mean, I know someone like Jaden Shaper who didn't go to college and just went straight professional. Louis was the same. I think Brandon Grace was the same. Didn't go through the college system, and there's a huge debate about, as at that age, whether it's worth going to college and exploiting exactly what you're saying, all of the coaches and putting yourself in those pressure situations where it's not so isolated. But yeah, I think maybe that's a topic for another day. But it would be very interesting for someone to crunch the numbers, and maybe it's a path that certainly South Africans are taking advantage of. You hear most of the really good South African sort of schoolboy golfers going overseas and taking up a scholarship in one of the American universities. But for the really top guys, it's not necessarily the route that all of them take is to go through college.
Yeah, I think it would be fascinating for us to speak to someone who actually knows what they're talking about. On that decision tree,
Absolutely, yeah.
Uh, I've spoken about this with Carl before as well, just to understand the decision tree. Yeah. So like just to round out the pro thing, like which three South African golfers do you most want to see? Like, let's say have a lot of success or like ideally like win a major. Like and this doesn't have to be down to just like where they are in the world rankings, but like just oaks that you like and would like to see do really well. Who's on your top three list?
I'd really like to see Christian Bezuidenhout win a major. I think his story is incredible, and I think his putting is unbelievable. I think there was a stat the other day just about how many two putts that guy had made. I mean, it was
Oh my God, I saw that. Yeah,
I'll find the stat for you now, but
it's crazy.
Bezuidenhout.
I think it was something like 450 something holes without a three putt.
No, it's ridiculous. So
It's just ridiculous.
no, it's nuts.
Yeah, that's wild.
Um,
Yeah, okay. So you got Seabass, yeah.
as much as he's fallen off the wagon, I still really like Garrick Higo. I'd love to see him in contention. Another lefty. There's always the discussions about the best lefties in pro golf, and yeah, I mean you can see when he gets in the mix, he's such a good player. So it would be great to see him in contention. Jaden Shaper, I still think he's a epic prospect for us. So he would be
So
be my
those are your
other one.
three.
Yep, that's it. Done.
I thought you were giving yourself a couple of bench warmers there.
No, I think those are my three, and I
Okay.
think they yeah, I'm happy with those.
No, those are good. My three are very obvious. There's three guys that I just like. A lot of it's down to what seems to be their vibe and personality. But the first one is Eric van Rooyen.
Okay.
Um, I think he's just a very interesting character. He clearly knows how to win golf tournaments. He's won a couple of times now on the PGA Tour, and he's a super interesting oak. He's a musician. He's got this whole gears going with the moustache and everything. So he's got a bit of character. The next one is also Gary Kigo. I like him. I think when he's hot, he's the oak
Mm.
flipping can go really really low. He's a very interesting oak to watch. Um, yeah, he's got style. He's got that lefty vibe. There's something about him for sure. It'll be nice to see him kind of finding his feet and being a bit more consistent. And then the last one is a new kid on the block, and that's Casey Jarvis.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tristan Lawrence.
He Yeah, Tristan. Yeah. So anyway, I'll get to Tristan Lawrence now, but Casey Jarvis is. I saw this guy playing last year at the SA Open when he was still an amateur, and I think I actually brought it up on the podcast earlier this year, and I was like, Oaks, the Soak is an interesting Oak to watch. Like he hits the crap out of the ball, but he's got some like gears to him. He wears his like heart on his sleeve. And when I was watching him, he wasn't playing very well, and he's getting in his own head and whatever. But the Oak is clearly supremely talented. I mean, he shot a 59 on the Sunshine Tour this year. Um, and then he went to the European Challenge Tour, and I think he basically got his European Tour card by finishing second or third on the Challenge Tour. And then he came home and he was basically in the last two groups, I think, either at the Joburg Open and the SA Open, I think. So I reckon I like him. He's got some real gears, and yeah, he does something for me. I like watching him on TV. Tristan Lawrence I think he's very good at golf. To me, he seems like the sort of you always have one guy on your golf tour when you go on golf tour who like he could probably drink like 10 beers in a round of golf and he would just be the same like dead center like personality and like he would still play good golf. You'd probably get back to your the house you rented and he'd probably get onto like the double brandies and cokes.
And be chilled.
And he's got some good story. He'll probably have some good stories, but he's not going to be the oak who's like chundering on the golf course, and he's also not going to be he's not going to be like a boring oak who goes to bed early. Like he'll probably be one of the last couple of oaks to go to bed at night on the golf tour, but he'll be level the whole way. Do you know what I mean? He'll be solid. So I don't dislike him. I like him, but I don't like him enough for him to be in like my top five.
Yeah.
Jacques, so the question was posed, and the SA Open, it should be our flagship golf event in South Africa, and it feels like it's lost a little bit of its luster. The other day when they had the SA Open and then they had the tournaments at Leopard Creek, we saw all the big guns go and just play at Leopard Creek. Now, obviously, we know there's certain reasons for that, most of which are probably financial. Possibly oaks like looking at elephants and buffaloes as well, particularly buffaloes on the back of 100 Rand notes. They like those buffaloes.
And leopards on the back of the 200 notes.
But let's say if we could reimagine a world where the SA Open was reinvigorated and became this really awesome tournament again, and we could have it in. We want to set up a rota here for the SA Open, so we want it to be in as many provinces as possible, without it being just dominated by one province. So what I said is, guys, pick 5 courses for an SA Open rota. 2 of them can be in the same province, and name your rota and just give a pretty reasonable reason for each of the courses. So that was the challenge I posed to you. But before we get to that, what would you say would be the crux of what a good SA Open course should pose, or should contain, to be successful?
Well, firstly, this is the first time hearing that I could have picked 2 in the same province because I had to rack my brain and go down the top 50 list trying to find ones in some provinces.
Go read the small print, boy.
Yes, so you'd think I would have, but anyway, I managed to pick in 5 in different provinces.
5 provinces. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, so I do. But yeah, I would say I grappled with it a bit. I think I wanted to pick courses that had some history, that didn't have another big, European Tour or Sunshine Tour event on them, that sort of had the spotlight on them. So I wanted the rota to, be courses that spotlight was the fact that they hold the SA Open every 5 years. And I mean, obviously, the obvious one there is, if Gary Player Country Club in Sun City didn't hold the Nedbank every year, I would have put that on the South African Open rota. But much like which was the Torrey Pines that hold the US Open, where they have a regular event. I didn't want to
Yeah.
have that being part of the rota. So anyway, with
Yeah.
that being said, I'll go through my top 5. You can maybe criticize
So
it after each one.
did you say did you also add now about the sort of accessibility for fans and
Yes, I did. I'm just having a look at the courses. I also thought about the fact that some of the pros are going to, or the not some of the pros, I mean all of the pros are going to have to play these courses. So as much as I'd love to see Dhoni host an SA Open, I think the
I think they're
Oaks,
all gonna have to play it, yeah.
but also Dhoni might see what was live the um, what does it stand for if you birdie every
So
hole?
does this mean you're ruling out Augusta?
Augusta National or Augusta Hillcrest.
Hillcrest, yeah.
Yeah, no, look, I'm worried that that's not that accessible for the fans. So that was the only reason Augusta Hillcrest got excluded. The hill,
Grumpy homeowners there.
yeah, the hill Shongweni is still obviously there on the opposite field. Um, okay, so I'm going to start with I'll start with the one in KZN because I think it's quite an obvious pick. I think you'd be hard pressed to have someone say that Durban Country Club shouldn't be on the SA Open Rota, regardless of what the criteria is. It's held 17 SA Opens already. I think the upgrade's been done to DCC with the burn going through it, with them, redoing the greens. The greens were absolutely terrible a couple of years ago, or the last couple of years. They looked like a dog had bitten a hole in the middle of it. Um, so I think DCC with the revamp and with the history of DCC, the fact that there are some epic holes there, especially if the wind gets up and the conditions get a bit tough. Durban Country Club for me is an absolute no-brainer for KZN.
Yeah, so I think the best way for us to do this is because I think we're probably gonna have a lot of similar courses. So I'm gonna co-sign on DCC. I don't think some call it the spiritual home of the SA Open, and I don't think you can really disagree with that. Beautiful golf course, beautiful layout. I think I haven't gone and looked at the revamp, but I had a good look at the new plans for it, and I think that is really gonna just elevate it to being a proper championship test again. Unfortunately, it did lose a little bit of relevance with the length that guys are hitting it. Um, but yeah, with a bit of a rollback of the golf ball and with them adding some distance onto it, now I think that it is going to really be a fantastic test again. The one thing I will say, and we didn't really bring this up in the beginning, but I think the only thing that's working against DCC is the time of year that the
Mm,
SA Open slot is in at the moment. So, and that's quite an important factor, because it seems like we set on this November, early December, November, end of November slot. And as we're experiencing now, it is just a really crappy time of year to be golfing in KZN. So I think DCC is at its optimal sort of at the end of winter.
yeah, when it's windy
Um,
as well.
when it's windy, so like September, October, when the seasonal winds are up, but it's still nice and firm and fast.
Yeah.
It's probably at its best, but you also can't just move tournaments around, unfortunately, these days just to suit the course. So, look, that might work against it because it might be a lot softer. But yeah, co-sign on DCC. I don't think there's any doubts about that.
All right. I'm going to go, Terence, to the next one. It's not obviously number two on my roster, but I think it's one that's going to be an easy cosign. Although I do, I'm sure you know my opposite pick for this one. Let's say that it gets flooded. Eastern Cape, obviously some good courses in EC, and I think some very underrated courses. I think like KZN, the Eastern Cape's got extremely good, underrated, affordable golf courses. I think people go to Cape Town, to the Garden Route, to Gauteng to play their golf. But yes, there are some absolute gems in the Eastern Cape. East London Country Club, obviously St Francis, length. But for my SA Open Rota, I've picked Humewood. Top 10 course, absolute mint course, the only true links in Africa. It's held a number of SA Opens. I think it has to have a place on the Rota.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll say it is co-signed by me. One of my favorite courses in the country. Um, it is not only, does it carry this links tag, and a lot of that's got to do with its location, but really the actual layout of that course is really. pretty genius, and it's stood the test of time. You know, it's been there. It's got that historical element to it, which is really what I think the SA Open should be about. I think St. Francis Links is a fantastic golf course, and it is a lovely layout and a lovely test. I think St. Francis Links could find itself an annual tournament to
Mm,
host, which I think it already sort of has now
it
with
does, yeah.
the PGA, like the Sunshine Tour PGA that they have there. So I think St. Francis Links should definitely have an annual tournament. But I just couldn't select. There's no ways you could have Humewood over Links, the St. Francis over Humewood. So for me, I mean, at some point we need to do a deep dive on Humewood, I think, Jacques, because it's just got so much character. And I mean, you've got the dunes and the bunker. The bunkering is just unbelievable there. And then the different conditions that you can play it in, you know, one day to the next. There's a little question mark, I guess, over its length. You know, when the wind's not up, unfortunately, with these pros, you know, but you know, they changed some of the holes, but I think there are options for them to add some additional tees there. They need to possibly lengthen it. Um, there may be one or two question marks on the conditioning. The greens
Yo,
at Hubert are amazing.
the greens at Human are
Um,
incredible.
I think the fairways, you know, depending on the time of year, can change, can be variable. But yeah, it's an easy coastline for me. It's really good. But I also want to give an honorable mention to the East London Golf Club
Yeah,
because I've you know it's one of the courses that I've only ever played once, and it is one of my courses that I want to go back to the most because I had such a memorable outing there, and reminded me a lot of DCC. It's
So that
different to
was
DCC.
that was one of the reasons
Um,
why I didn't want to put it in there, Terence, because when I played East London Country Club, it was actually scary how much it reminded me of Durban Country Club. Whereas Humewood,
mm,
it sets itself apart a bit in terms of, being something different if it is going to be on that SA Open Rota. I mean, part of what I also wanted to do was to really have the varying types of golf courses that we have in South Africa, test the guys every 5 years.
yeah, and I know with East London, you know, I think what we're seeing now with DCC is that they've done this big renovation, and they've tried to actually do a bit of a restoration at DCC where, you know, they've looked at old photographs and they've said, look, we actually this bush that's grown up here wasn't actually part of the original course design,
Yeah,
and they've got rid of a lot of the bush at DCC, and I think what you'll find is that East London is probably due a similar
yeah.
restoration because it's probably a quirky version of DCC. That's how I would describe it. There's a couple of like boringish holes. DCC also has those on the flat side, but it probably needs a good restoration to get cut back on that. But yeah, just wanted to give it a mention. Very fun course.
I thought
All
you were
right,
gonna. I
what's
thought you were
next up?
gonna try and slip in Royal Port Alfred there as well.
Mm, did did host the SA Open once back in the 20s. Still an amazing layout. I don't think it's really relevant for pro golf anymore. But if you're in that part of the world, do not skip Royal Port Alfred.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
Love that
there's a
course.
lovely podcast that's awaiting us of a Eastern Cape golf tour, and we can talk through that at some stage. But there's so many buttes along there now. Yeah.
100%. Okay, Western Cape. Obviously, I mean, I thought, not reading the small print, the fine print, that I needed to pick one in the Western Cape, which includes the garden route. Anyway, my pick for the Western Cape was Arabella. And I know it's
Wow.
a resort course. I know you've got your Pearl
Interesting.
Valleys, you've got your fan courts, Royal Cape. I know there's a lot of history there. For me, Arabella is just also it's a good test. I just think it brings something a little bit different to the SA Open. Um, yeah, I would love to see that on the rotor.
When when you say it's a different test, how would you say it's different to um, like a Humewood or what is the test at Arabella? Because I've never played this, so this
So
is
Arabella for me is
it's a difficult one for me.
it's more modern. It's obviously it's a much more modern course than DCC and Humewood. It's still a resort course, so there is um, there's it can be quite forgiving, but I'm sure the guys could tighten it up and make it a bit more difficult if the SA Open was coming there. Every hole for me, the big thing with Arabella is every hole was standalone. When you played a hole at Arabella, that was the hole you were playing. You didn't feel like there was any other hole there, but at the same time, it's very accessible. On the way to a minus. The last time I played it was probably no, probably more than that, 9 years ago. So I'm due another another round there. But yeah, I think the DCC and Humewood's that traditional golf sort of linksy. Arabella, while it's still on that lagoon, I do think it's a bit of a different test to Humewood and to DCC. But yeah, have you played Arabella, Terence?
No, I've never played there, so that's why I'm interested. I'm asking.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's epic, but absolutely stunning, just setting to play in. Yo, it's beautiful.
yeah. So I got to be honest. Like, it's where we sometimes get over our skis on this podcast
Yeah,
because we talk about things that we maybe are not qualified always to talk about. Um, Golf in the Western Cape is certainly a bucket which I've only peed into a little bit. I certainly haven't filled it up. I've done a couple of few baby peas in there, but so yeah, it was tough for me because I think most of the courses which have the potential to host the SA Open are courses that I haven't played, probably besides Pearl Valley. Um, So it was interesting that you say Arabella. So I'm gonna go with the links at Fan Court. Um, I haven't played there, so I'm probably not again not necessarily qualified. But from what I understand and from everything I've read about it, and also from the fact that it has hosted an SA Open previously, one of which I actually remember watching quite a bit because it turned out to be an epic duel that SA Open between Retief and Ernie on the last day. I remember watching it quite clearly. Yeah, I just think the George area has got a real momentum about it. It's almost like the semi-golf
yeah.
capital of the country. I think there's a lot of golf enthusiasts there. I think from a fan perspective, you could probably get a really good crowd in there. So it's a good destination. I think it's obviously a great golf course. It was sort of built and has hosted obviously the President's Cup. So from an infrastructure perspective, I think there won't be an issue. And I think it's a great showcase of South African golf. Um, Probably doesn't have the same sort of history in terms of some of the other courses, but yeah, I had to have to pick a horse. So I'm going to go with the Fancourt Links.
A safe pick, that one. Well,
Probably honorable mentions just to say that I did put this question to a couple of the golf groups that I'm on. Shout out to the Pies and Gravy Golf Champs group because I put the question on there and it ignited some furious debate amongst Oaks on the golf group, which was really cool to see. Um, Obviously, Pearl Valley was probably the number one pick in the Western Cape on that group.
the
There
thing is,
was George Golf Club
but Pearl
was
Valley,
mentioned.
Terence, and maybe I should say that like Pearl Valley for me is in a housing estate. Serengeti again, in a housing estate. While Humewood
Yeah,
is it's got a hotel on it and the rest of it, but it's not a housing estate. So for me, it just I don't know, like there's something
Arabella, you
about
mean?
Arabella,
Yeah,
sorry, Arabella. So there's something about for me having the SA Open at a course that wasn't a housing estate.
yeah. Fair enough. No, I mean, yeah, I think as I say, I'm on board with that. Um, I think the other courses, I think I just mentioned George Golf Club had a few mentions from guys. Pearl Valley, yeah, and the Fancourt Links. I think honestly those were the three that probably got the most mention. So Take us to your next province here, Jacques.
All
Or
right,
this is
so
great. Are we
I'm
going to the Northern Cape?
no, we're going to Gauteng here. So in Gauteng, it was it was between two big ones. For me in Gauteng, it was either going to be Glendower or Royal J&K East, both of which have hosted the SA Open. I must just check my maths on J&K East, but I'm almost certain it has. Glendower definitely in recent times has hosted a number of SA Opens. The one that Rory McIlroy played was at Glendower, won by Graham Storm. But yeah, Glendower for me and Terence going going a bit upstream or contrary to the flow there, where we said that we didn't want the courses that have hosted it sort of 5 times in a row. Or Glendower for me is such a good SA Open course. It was a good test. The guys didn't shoot absolute lights out. It was a sufficient test for the pros when they've really played it there. So it's sort of tried and tested in the modern era. Absolute fantastic conditioning. Easy to get infrastructure in there. Glendower is a great, great, great SA Open course.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I had Glendower as my pick for Gauteng. Again, I haven't played at Glendower. Watched a lot of golf there on TV. I know exactly where it is in Joburg. It's got the bones from an historical perspective, but very accessible in the middle of Joburg. I think there's always a good crowd there. And I think, like I said earlier about the fan court where it produced this great duel between two top players. There's a lot to be said for looking at historical results that have happened at a golf course. And I think on the better golf courses, the cream tends to rise to the top. I know in the SA Open sometimes, maybe the fields are a bit shallow, but there's a lot to be said for courses that produce consistently good, excellent champions. And yeah, okay, Graham Storm. Maybe you could argue, but you still had Rory,
Rory there, yeah.
fighting it out there, and there've been a couple of other. I mean, Glendower's hosted the SA Open for decades now.
Well, Royal J&K is Royal J&K 9 SA Opens, so it's right up there.
And how many has Glendower had?
I will give you that answer shortly. You can carry on.
Okay, but yeah, I seem to remember looking up at it, and it's also got the. I know it's limited now with its footprint, but it's got the addition. It's got, they did lengthen it. I think in the early 2000s. So it's probably gonna be still a good test. Still gonna be a very relevant golf course, which is not easy to do in a city where you kind of limited from a footprint perspective. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm happy to co-sign on Glendower. No issues with that. So what's the tally there? By the
So
way, just on Glendower, it was probably easily the number one course mentioned by all the other people I spoke to from a Gauteng perspective. So it
as
wasn't even
the course that should be on the rota.
in Gauteng, yeah.
Yeah.
There was no mention of Blair Athol, which is interesting that it's because it's hosting all these opens now.
I do think that Blair Ethel is a great course for the SA Open in this era though with its length. And it's a really really cool golf
But
course.
it's a crappy fan experience,
Yeah,
Blair Athol.
yeah.
I mean,
It's a beast.
unless you're in that Investec corporate tents on the 18th where you're just getting like free sour cream dip and as many gin and tonics as you can drink. If you like, last year I was there and like you go and walk a few holes and like, firstly it's like 30 fucking 8 degrees, uh, and secondly it is like a beast of a course to walk. I know that a lot of the players, apparently the players don't really like that golf course. They just said it's too much of a beast.
Yeah, it is a
Um,
beast.
which look, I don't always really care what the players think, but having been on site and that, it's yeah, a lovely clubhouse. But yeah, I don't know. It's also a bit out of Joburg, it's out by Lanseria
Yeah,
Airport, and it's a far enough and out. It's far enough out that people are like, I'm not doing this.
Mm.
So, um, okay. So I'm pretty much co-signed with you there. So we've got 3 out of 4 are the same.
To be honest, I mean,
Where are you taking me?
I did say it's my next one of thinking that I had to pick 5 in different provinces. So I picked Leopard Creek as one. But I mean, like I said, it didn't fit my criteria in that it already hosts a big annual tournament in the Dunhill. Um, I mean, if I could, I'd actually put Royal J&K East in there over Leopard Creek. So I'd have Glendower and J&K East if I was going to pick 2 from the same province. But otherwise, yeah, Leopard Creek was my pick in Mpumalanga.
Okay, so so you've just picked my 5th course basically because Royal J&K East was my 5th course because I read the fine print of the rules. But yeah, I mean that is a course that I've played. I think it's really great layouts, and I think the SA Open is it's very important. We've got a lot of good golf courses in this country, which are unfortunately kind of in the middle of nowhere. Um, I mean, you think of places like Pinnacle Points, Sishin,
Elements.
gosh, yeah. I mean, you could go around Elements, Highland Gates. I mean, Highland Gates was mentioned by so many of the guys on the Pies and Gravy group. Guys saying it's their favorite golf course in South Africa, and so yeah, fantastic. Unfortunately, it's not going to work to host an SA Open, and for me, Joburg is still the sort of corporate capital of South Africa. The game of golf is like booming in the sort of middle to upper class corporate South Africa. It's still very resilient there, and there's a lot of new people taking up golf. And I think you have to have 2 SA Opens for now in that area. So for me, the 2 best courses are Glendower and the East Coast. So just a quick interjection here into the podcast, guys. I had asked TV broadcaster Dale Hayes what his views were on an SA Open Rota, and Dale was very kind to send us his thoughts, so I'm going to play that now.
The Sunshine Tour and Golf RSA have a plan to try and rotate the South African Open to different golf courses around the country as it used to happen. I think a lot of people would be in favour of this. I certainly would be. The 5 golf courses that I would like to see used would be in KwaZulu-Natal, Durban Country Club. I can't wait to see the new finished, renovated, upgraded Durban Country Club. It always was one of my favourites, and I'm sure will continue to be one of my favourites. In Johannesburg, Royal Joburg would be the golf course of choice for the South African Open. In Cape Town, it would be Royal Cape. I'd like to see Humewood used down in Port Elizabeth. And then the 5th one could be an extra sort of rotation where maybe, a few golf courses in smaller towns like East London Golf Club, which is really a fabulous golf course, Bloemfontein Golf Club, which has held South African Open Championships, would be 2 golf courses. I don't think Bloemfontein Golf Club could sustain a South African Open every 5 years. The other possible option would be for golf courses or for golf clubs that have 2 courses to stage the South African Open men's tournament and the ladies tournament at the same time. Now that would be, I think, a really cool, novel idea, and it would go a long way to improving women's golf in South Africa. Golf courses there that could be used, again, would be Royal Johannesburg. We've got 2 fabulous golf courses, Mount Edgecombe in Durban. You could use golf course like Sun City even, the 2 courses at Sun City. You could use Mowbray and Rondebosch Golf Club, which are just across the road from each other. That would work. And I think that would be something that would be very, very different and something that would work really well. and take ladies golf to a new level.
Thank you, Dale. Greatly appreciate your insights. Seems like we are aligned there to some degree. And yeah, it's exciting to hear that this is something that they are looking at and considering at that level. So very much look forward to this being instituted. So we've very aligned there, Jacques, which is quite surprising.
I'm pretty surprised, except for Arabella, which I couldn't really differentiate from Humid and DCC when you pressed me.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I don't know about Arabella. Yeah, I don't know if does it have any bones to host professional golfers? I mean,
Look, I'm looking at
I
it.
don't know.
I'm
I
looking
haven't
at
played
pictures
it.
of it. I'm looking at pictures of it now, and I imagine quite a lot of indigenous bush is going to be trampled if they did host an SA Open.
Yeah, and are people gonna travel out there?
It's not like a mile from Cape Town.
Oh, Capetonians don't like leaving the southern suburbs, though.
That's very true.
You'd have to host it at Steenberg if you wanted to get
Yes. Yeah. So it's an
people
hour.
to actually.
It's 100 k's from Cape Town to Arabella, an hour 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's probably an hour too
I
far
was
for
gonna,
most
I was gonna
Capetonians.
say it's about 70 kilometers too far away.
Yeah, but anyway, you've picked it, so
Yeah, I
you
stand by
stick with
it.
your guns.
Stand by it.
You stand by. Look, it looks by all accounts. I mean, it looks like a beautiful, beautiful place. So, um, I don't know. Yeah, wouldn't. That doesn't get my nod, but yeah, I'm quite surprised how aligned we are. Are there any other like a place like Pinnacle Point? Is that not
Nah.
a place to host a
I
SA Open?
absolutely love Pinnacle Point. Great golf course. It's if the wind's not up again, I think the pros will tear it to pieces.
Smash it.
I think
And it's a housing estate as well.
it is, but it is absolutely stunning. It's spectacular. But for an SA Open course, I don't think so. And if we're not going to get the Cape Townians to Arabella, we're not getting them to Mossel Bay. So, so I think
Fair
that
enough.
excludes them. The
Yeah.
other ones I had on here, yeah, I had Fancourt Links, St Francis Royal J&K. The one I did want to put in here, and I suppose it speaks to a bigger thing, is something like Champagne Sports, which is golf in the Berg, as like an SA Open. And again, I think obviously they'd have to do quite a lot of work to Champagne Sports. I mean, obviously there's a tee on number one, which is sort of on the other side of the river above the clubhouse, and I think they'd probably have to buy some land or put some additional tee boxes in there. But I still think it could make quite a sweet sort of course, to again just show off a different side of SA golf, which is what a lot of the Nordic countries we see in there with the mountains in the background and some of the elevation changes that they play. So I thought I'd give it an honourable mention, but obviously not feasible as it stands, but maybe something that if we're doing this fantasy rota that maybe Champagne Sports, if it wanted to put its hand up, might find a spot.
Yeah, I think just I mean, I love the golf course again. I just think from a location perspective, it's not the sort of course that I would want to see hosting the SA Open. I just think you're not going to get too much of an atmosphere there. Yeah, you'll get a lot of nice mountain shots, but I think that's more or less about it. Yeah, it's difficult because that's the problem is a lot of our most beautiful golf courses and that are kind of out and about.
Yeah,
And
Highland
I think
Gates I
there is
think
a
is a
balance with,
Highland Gate's a great shot. I actually I hadn't
yeah,
thought of that, but I think that would be epic.
yeah. But listen, this has been really good. I have to sign off here. I've got a hard cut off. Um, but thanks for spending your Boxing Day doing research, 6 hours of research on Arabella.
Oh, I was gonna say mostly on Dean Burmester.
Well, I hope either you get a night to stay, a free night to stay at the Arabella Hotel for punting them so hard, or you get a Christmas card from Dean Burmester next year. I mean, which would you be more excited about?
What I was hoping, especially after my homage to the Stingers, with some of my thin golf shots, that I'd get a Stingers golf cap. That would be top.
Okay, so Dean Burmester, if you're listening, which we know it's very possible that he might not be. Jacques would love a signed Stingers golf hat, which you'll wear it. Will you wear it for every episode next year?
100%.
Okay. I got to tell you, I paid ode to the Stingers quite a bit today at Gowrie. Yeah, there was a lot of showing respect for the boys with, especially around the greens. There was a lot of Stingers around the greens. So.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's either you pay ode to the Stingers or ode to Jason Duffner. So I think yeah, one of the two is getting honoured on my chip shots at the moment.
Jacques, we're going to start off next year. We're going to do some sort of golf. We need a golf goals podcast for 2024. So
100%.
put that in your diary for early next year. And I hope everyone has a lekker rest of their holiday and you get some golf in. Good luck for your golf tomorrow. Hope you guys play. And everyone who's listening around the country, especially those who don't live in KZN, where we're experiencing the fifth flood of the year. I hope you guys get some golf in because I don't think I'm going to get any more golf in this year unless the forecast changes dramatically.
Lekker, Terence.
Thanks, Jacques. We will see you next year. Talk to you.